Serbia is a nation that carries a very rich footballing history. They have created some incredible players in the past, and let's just say that they haven't stopped the trend. Despite that, Serbia has been continuously falling over at the final hurdle at major tournaments, despite qualifying for quite a bit of them. Today we'll take a closer look at their rise, and just to be able to analyze what keeps going wrong at these big tournaments for them. Now, before we begin, I would like to ask you to elbow drop that subscribe button before we can begin. Like, comment, all that funny stuff. And yeah, enough e-begging. Let's get into the actual video. I'm playing with fire here because it's always dangerous to bring this topic up, but it would be disingenuous not to, as a lot of the once Yugoslav nations carry their love for football from there. Serbia is no different in that sense. Now, a totally separate video would have to be made to cover all that Yugoslavia did in football. However, I'll keep it brief for now. That video may or may not be coming, I refuse to confirm anything. Serbia has kept Yugoslavia's record, and as they placed fourth in the World Cup on 2 occasions, that has gone to Serbia, along with the 2 runner-up results in the Euros. The Yugoslav side existed all the way from 1920 to the last match that was played against the Dutch in 1992. Now, it was under a different name, but it was all practically the same country, really. What would follow was a collapse that made Yugoslavia look like a Jenga tower with the way that it fell apart.
Alright, so Peter just died, but I think things are gonna be fine if you just let us fix our some. Hey, hold up!
Freedom time, yeah.
What is wrong with you guys? What? Don't you be getting any funny ideas, Bosnia? Don't leave. Fuck.
After that, Serbia would undergo a name change, the first of many. Or I guess Yugoslavia would go under a name change. I mean, it's much more than a name change, that was it really. Alright, doesn't matter, don't let the name fool you. There is no Yugoslavia, it's just Serbia and Montenegro. Although, to make it simpler, instead of just, Serbia and Montenegro, that's too long, I'll just call it Yugoslavia for the rest of this. Or FR Yugoslavia, also known as the former Republic of Yugoslavia. I'm just chatting shit. The team was officially formed in April of 1992. However, the UN restrictions wouldn't allow them to compete or anything because, war, and, war is bad, bold takes only on this channel. Their first game as the former Republic of Yugoslavia would be in December against Brazil, where they would lose 2-0. And then they would travel to Buenos Aires to play Argentina, go down by 1 and never come back. They would finally join FIFA and UEFA in late 1994. However, it was too late for them to take part in the qualifying processes for the 1996 Euros, so, sucks to suck, wait until 1998. Wait they did, and let's just say it was worth the wait, as they would be given a fairly tough group. They would still finish second with a whopping 23 points, only just behind Spain. In the playoffs, they would play Hungary, and, I think play is a bit generous. I think destroy is a little bit of a better description. If you are wondering why I say that, Hungary lost 12-1 on aggregate, so you make of that what you will. They would have the displeasure of playing in this group at the World Cup, however, they would do fairly well in it. They would actually be on level points with Germany in first place, however, because goal differentials, they would actually finish in second. In the round of 16, they would be playing the Netherlands, and let's just say you're gonna hear the Netherlands come up a lot in this video. They attempted to begin the game in a little bit more of a defensive approach, however, it didn't prove very useful as they would concede to Dennis Bergkamp in the 38th minute. Fear not though, as the scoring would be leveled by a header coming straight from Komjenovic to make it 1-1. In the second half, they would have a chance to, through a penalty, make it 2-1, however, they would miss and the score remained level. Now, Netherlands were about to teach them a very, very big lesson in the game, where you can't make mistakes like that without being punished, and Edgar Davids would be the punisher as he scored from 20 meters out to make it 2-1. There was no response this time, and the Dutch would come off with a 2-1 win, sending Yugoslavia packing. Now, I'm not in the business of covering every game detail by detail, however, in the 2000 Euro qualifiers, they would be drawn with Croatia, so I'm not going to skip that. The start to their campaign was a very good one, as they would win every single game up until the game against Croatia in Belgrade. That would finish 0-0. Finally out, there was like a power outage in the second half that would how do I say it, put the game off for 40 minutes. Probably the most entertaining thing that even happened. That would be followed by a loss to the Irish, 2 wins against North Macedonia, and on the final match day, they just needed not to lose to Croatia for a chance to qualify. And a 2-2 draw was enough. Now, as I'm recording this, I'm not sure if I'll be able to show you the game, but if I can, it's an instant HUD classic this. One would follow was an extremely wacky Euro 2000 tournament in a group that looked something like this. Yeah. First up was Slovenia, and well, Slovenia managed to get a 3-goal lead. However, within 6 minutes in the second half, they'd somehow concede 3, and Yugoslavia would snatch a 3-3 draw somehow. I'm not sure how you allow that to happen, however, life is crazy like that. Next time around, they would get a massive 3 points against Norway, with a 1-0 win being enough. Then came the last match between the Spanish and Yugoslavia, and although the Spanish did win 4-3, it was a very end-to-end game, very entertaining, a 10 out of 10. Despite the 2 draws and only 1 win, that would be enough, and they would qualify for the second round, which at the time were the quarterfinals. They would be paired up against, you guessed it, the Dutch, and well, it wasn't great. They got packed in 6-1 with Patrick Clay. I don't know what happened there. However, Sevan Milosevic was still crowned the top scorer alongside the earlier mentioned Dutch attacker, but he was given advantage because of the game left that he played. Now it was time for some coach changes, and let's just say one of many. Stick through this. It's a bit tricky. 2002 would see Ilya Petkovic come in as the coach, and he'd have a bit of a horror show, so he'd get sacked pretty soon after. Replacing him was Savicevic, and he wouldn't do much better. Hell, he did worse. The country switched their name to Serbia and Montenegro officially now, and I don't know why I mentioned that again. Anyways, the team would lose to Azerbaijan, which would force Savicevic to resign, only for Ilya Petkovic to return again, and still wouldn't qualify for the final tournament. Crazy. This might seem like a bad decision. Was it now? Not quite. They would actually go unbeaten in the qualifiers for the 2006 World Cup, with 6 wins and 4 draws, finishing first place above Spain, Belgium, and Bosnia. Not that it's that impressive to finish above us. Despite the referendum that year that would split Serbia and Montenegro, they would still go to the World Cup together one last time in a show of unity. They would lose all 3 games and get no points. They lost 1-0 to the Netherlands. Again, it's the Netherlands. They keep fucking coming up again. They would get thrashed by Argentina, and despite holding a 2-0 lead against the Ivory Coast, they would somehow just concede 3 and lose the game, finishing with no points. Wow. What's about to happen is going to make my life a whole lot easier. Serbia now, finally, I can stop fucking calling it Serbia Montenegro. That's such a long name. Ahead of the 2008 qualifiers for the Euros, they would appoint their first ever foreign coach in Spanish, Javier Clement. Did I say that right? Doesn't matter. I won't be saying his name for long because he got sacked very quickly. They actually wouldn't even start that bad. However, they just started dropping points where they definitely shouldn't have, like teams like Kazakhstan in the later rounds. So that was unacceptable. They finished 3rd and he got the boot immediately. Then Miroslav Djurkic came in and he didn't even play a single game. He would resign after immediate disagreements with the Serbian FA. Wild. The next coach for the team would be Radomir Antic, who would do fairly well and would stay a little while longer. In the qualifiers for the 2010 World Cup, he would manage to win 7 games, draw 1, and lose only 2. This would be enough to take them to South Africa in first place, above France by 1 point. In their group, they were paired up with Ghana, Germany, and Australia, which was fairly tricky. The Serbs would start their 2010 World Cup campaign against the Black Stars in Ghana. And by that I mean like the Black Stars, that's like the nickname for Ghana. They didn't play the game in Ghana, it was in South Africa. So, yeah, it wouldn't go too bad for a little while. However, following a red card and a handball from a substitute, a penalty would be their demise in an unfortunate 1-0 loss. The next game was against Germany, and it was won that if they had any hopes of qualifying, they just simply couldn't lose. However, it was Germany. Realistically, by all means, Germany had every advantage. However, Serbia did their bit in winning that game 1-0, with the sole scorer being Milan Jovanovic. This was an absolutely huge result for them, as now they only needed 1 point against Australia to make it through to the round of 16. And while I mean it is Australia, how hard could that be? Come on. It turns out quite hard, as they would go down 2-0 to the Aussies following goals from Tim Cahill and Brett Holman. They would try to fight back, and they would get a goal from Pantelic late on. However, it only served as consolation, and they wouldn't really get anything out of it. Football is a game that doesn't make sense, and I think this is a pretty good run that hope proves it, where they could beat Germany and then not beat Australia or Ghana. So that's interesting. What would follow was a few rather disappointing qualifying campaigns. Antic was sacked only 2 games into the Euro 2012 qualifiers, with a draw against Slovenia being his demise. The one appointed after him was Vladimir Petrovic. He wouldn't do that much better. They were incredibly inconsistent, and with plenty of chances to get to the playoffs, being given every last opportunity under the sun, they'd blow them all in the end and end up a point behind fucking Estonia. To no one's shock, Vladimir Petrovic would also bite the bullet, reasonably so, and Serbia failed to qualify for yet another European Championship. I'd chat shit about that, but I am Bosnia, so I'll just keep my mouth shut. Before the qualifiers for the 2014 World Cup in Brazil could even begin, they would have some rather bad news. Both Nemanja Vidic and Dejan Stankovic, 2 very good players for the team, would retire from international football, so that wasn't great. In the qualifiers, they were drawn into Group A, an interesting group to say the least, though, for fuck's sake. Serbia will start off fairly well, drawing in Scotland and then battering Wales alive. Things would then take a turn for the worst, as they would lose to Belgium by 3, to North Macedonia by 1, and to their rivals in Zagreb by 2. All of those without scoring a single damn goal. They would make their comeback known, as they would beat Scotland. However, any hopes of qualification would be quickly ripped away by Belgium in a 2-1 loss for the Serbs. Then came a historically significant game, Serbia versus Croatia in Belgrade. I'm gonna say this so many times throughout this video, however, I cannot do this match justice. This is just the kind of thing that you need to see for yourself. I hope I can show it, however, I don't know if UEFA is gonna let me, so if you're not seeing it right now, please go look it up. I promise you, you will not regret it. Now, the first half was actually shockingly tame, considering the teams that were playing. However, the second, not so much. The Croatians would take the lead in the 53rd minute through then Bayern Munich forward Mario Mandzukic. Then, Aleksandar Mitrovic, at the time, who was only 18 years old, would bag his first goal for Serbia. Although he won't score many, he'll be just average. And then came the part that everyone loves, the red cards, the first one being for Nemanja Matic, and a horror tackle by Šimanić, who would bag a red for himself as well. I really wish this game went the way that I expected it to, with it going to last man standing. However, they would only get 1 red card each. In other words, I'm disappointed. 0 out of 10. More red cards. I saw no blood, so it was rather disappointing. That's a joke. Blood is bad. No hate, only love. If we all loved each other, the world would be a better place. The Room, whenever that movie was created. Serbia would then cap off their qualifying campaign with 2 more wins. And although it meant fuck all for them because they were already done, it was a confidence boost come the 2016 Euro qualifiers. New qualifiers, new coach, this is the way that we move. This time around, it was a man named Dick Advocat, so that's just what I'll call him. That's how the wiki calls him, so I'll just name him Dick. Don't worry, I won't be saying his name much. He'll be gone very soon. They were given this group, and although an outsider might think, ooh, they've got Portugal, that's going to be a difficult game, that's definitely a dangerous game for them. That is the least dangerous game there. The most dangerous game there is the one against Albania, and it's dangerous for literally everyone in a 60-mile radius of the stadium. This qualifying campaign was fucking miserable. The Serbs was started in October of 2014, and they wouldn't get a win until September of 2015. Now, of course, I could cover that Albania game. I just won't, because I just won't be able to do justice as to how fucking insane it is. What I will cover, and this is something that not that many actually people cover, weirdly enough, the aftermath of it. So let's get to it. Albania were awarded a 3-0 win, and as if that wasn't enough, Serbia had another 3 points taken away from them as well. So that's cool. Dick didn't even survive the entirety of the 2014 year. That would be literally it. He wouldn't manage shit. Adaman Čurčić came in, wouldn't do anything. Like I said, they'd only bag like 2 more wins and a draw, and that's it. So nothing happened. Nothing. That was absolutely, a disastrous qualifying campaign. I think everyone can agree with me on that. Serbia needed a change, as they have now missed the last 3 major tournaments, and something needed to change it quickly. And the man to do it was Slavoljub Muslim. The qualifying campaign for the 2018 World Cup would have them in a tricky but still manageable group. They would be fairly consistent for the majority, getting mainly wins, a couple of draws here and there, and only 1 loss in a penultimate match against Austria. This was a very good qualifying campaign, where they had proven that they can beat teams that were very much on level with them with quite good ease. To mention, Aleksandar Mitrovic had 6 goals to his name and was the top scorer of the group. This had them finishing in first place quite comfortably, and now they were booking their tickets for Russia. Now comes the interesting part. Muslim did fairly well in the qualifiers, but came to the final squad selection, he was sacked by the FA. That would be mainly because he didn't have the best relationship with Lazio midfielder Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, and while the FA wanted him to be included in the squad, the only way to really do that was for Muslim not to be there, so they sacked him, practically saying that the player was bigger than the entire team, which is just not a great message. Mladen Krstajic would be the one to take over for the tournament, and while most of the time this kind of move is a bad decision, Morocco actually did it recently in Qatar, so and they did fairly well, so maybe they had a chance. They had a decent start, winning 1-0 against Costa Rica after a fucking rocket from Alexander Kolarov. Sorry, turned into an EDL member midway through the sentence. Despite that, this form wouldn't really follow. They had the Swiss up next, and that was a dangerous game, for reasons that I'm about to explain. Realistically, most of you watching already know why, but to the 7 of you that don't, there was quite a few Albanian players in the Switzerland squad, and while there's a lot of history dating back to that, and that was always going to be a dangerous match, Serbia would be the one to take the lead, and well, in a kind of poetic way, the 2 Albanian players, the only 2 Albanian players on the field, would be the ones to score, with one of them doing so in the last minute. And once more, the aftermath was kind of crazy, but that's something you're gonna be looking into yourself, because I'm not touching any of that. Now, their chances weren't fully out the window, but they did have to grab anything off of Brazil, while Switzerland was playing against Costa Rica meanwhile, so you could probably guess the outcome of that one. Serbia has now once more crashed out in the World Cup group stage, doing so well to get there, just to fall over and fail at the final hurdle. Moving on to the fucking Nations League. I can't be bothered. Fuck it. I'm not covering this shit. We're just gonna hit it with a lightning round. Serbia was in League C, Group 4, along with these teams. With 4 wins and 2 draws, they were promoted to League B in top spot, and also got automatic playoffs for Euro 2020. Just have to mention, Mitrovic was the top scorer of the tournament. Just an interesting fact. Also, believe it or not, Krstajic stayed as coach the entire time, so he did fairly well in the Nations League, so won't mind saying anything. Once the qualifiers for Euro 2020 started, they started off quite solid, as in a difficult group. They matched up against Portugal first. They got a 1-1 draw away from home, and that was their only game in March. However, come June, they would get packed up by Ukraine and Lviv, so that's not great. Despite the 4-1 win that followed against Lithuania, Krstajic was gonna be always sacked, and he's replaced by Ljubisa Tombakovic. He'd actually do fairly well, although he did lose the opener against Portugal 4-2. He'd win his next 3 games before drawing against Ukraine in the last minute on the last match day, which would confirm their reliance on the playoffs. Now, their best bet was to qualify, hell, their only bet was to qualify through the playoffs, and while they weren't exactly blessed with a easy bracket, to say the least, they had to play against Norway in Oslo, which was not great, as this was the point when Holland was on fucking fire. Despite that, Serbia was once more resilient, and with 2 goals, one in normal time and one in extra time, they would manage to snatch a 2-1 victory and progress to the finals of the playoffs. Then they had the mighty Scotland, and that was different. They would once more put on a great show of resilience. Despite playing on the back foot, going 1-0 down, Luka Jovic would score in the last minute to tie the game up for them. There would be no goals in extra time, so a penalty shootout would follow, and the man you'd expect least to miss a penalty
Mitrović
did
i
miss it.
Maršal. Aleksandar Mitrović. I Škotska je na prvenstvu Evrope najbolji strelac reprezentacije Srbije. Nije uspeo da postigne gol.
I'm talking about Aleksandar Mitrović here, and although he was the only Serbian player that missed, no Scotland takers missed their penalties. Scotland went through to Euro 2020 on penalties, while Serbia had now made it 20 damn years since they ever actually got to one, and never under the name of Serbia. Then came a brand new era. Ljubiša would be sacked, no shock there, and would be replaced by Dragan Stojkovic, better known as Pixie. That's just more of a fun name to pronounce and say, and also I think it's just kind of cool, so that's how I'll be referring to him for the rest of the video. In their 2022 Qatar World Cup qualifiers group, they were paired up with Portugal, Ireland, Luxembourg, and Azerbaijan. Realistically, here they should definitely aim for second place, especially because Ireland was looking quite weak at the time. It would all be set off beginning with a 3-2 win over Ireland, with the new boy Vlahovic scoring once, with Mitrovic scoring twice. This was the point, or at least the start, of Mitrovic's redemption arc. After that missed penalty, let's say it's a pretty entertaining one to watch. On the 27th of March, Portugal would follow in Belgrade in front of, well, no fans because, COVID. This is that infamous game where Serbia would manage a rather controversial 2-2 draw, but at the end of the day, Portugal, in my mind at least, shouldn't have left it to any chance, as they were deemed the favourites by a mile, and realistically, they had the better players. And realistically, the Portugal captain's Ronaldo's armband, it saved their life at the end of the day, so that's good. At least it was worth it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and give you step-by-step guidance to the qualifiers, there is no need. So, they would have another 5 games, 4 wins, and only 1 draw against Ireland in the middle. And although Ireland did hold them back there, on the next to last match day, they would have to hold Portugal to a 0-0 draw and allow Serbia to have a chance against them on the final match day, just to qualify ahead in first place. Although everything went against them, really, it was an away game. They needed a win while Portugal only needed a draw, so it was gonna be tough. Things wouldn't start amazingly for the Serbs, as they would concede to Renato Sanchez within the first 2 minutes after a sloppy mistake in the defense. Once more, resilience the name of the game here, with Dusan Tadic only just equalizing in the 33rd minute. Once more, in all terms, a draw away from home against Portugal would be very impressive. However, here, a draw really meant fuck all for Serbia's chances of qualifying, so they were gunning for the win entirely. It was weird to see Portugal play that defensively as they actually started playing on the back foot, but they took no risks, and come the 90th minute, it looked like it was all settled, and Portugal was heading to the World Cup. When it all seemed to be over, Aleksandar Mitrović, the man who missed the penalty and cost Serbia a Euro 2020, scores a header in the last minute to send Serbia 2-1 up and therefore to the World Cup in Qatar.
Još jednom lopta u 16-tercu. Evo prilike, Mitrović, gol! 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 Srbija vodi! Srbija u 90. minutu vodi za 2-1!
Celebrations ensue, and for good reason too, as Serbia has just secured qualification to the World Cup in first place for the second time in a row. Pick C here has built a very exciting young team with players like Dusan Vlahovic at the helm, and they definitely had a point to prove in the tournament. What does this mean for Portugal? Well, they were paired up in a bracket that probably had them facing some team like Italy, except that it didn't, and North Macedonia would get to the fight. It's just a funny world we live in. But of course, like I said, it would be a little bit weird after that bit of injustice in Belgrade for Portugal not to qualify. They did qualify through the playoffs and would make it to the World Cup alongside Serbia. Serbia was actually deemed as one of the dark horses before the competition set up, as, they were kind of giant killers already, grabbing a draw against Portugal and winning against them once. So in a lot of people's minds, they were set to go far, unexpectedly, as, the dark horses would. They were actually set up in a group eerily similar to the 2018 one, with Switzerland, Brazil, and the only change being, instead of Costa Rica, they got Morocco instead. First up, they had the displeasure of facing Brazil, who were one of the favorites for the entire thing, although we know how that turned out. Serbia would survive the first half, but Brazil would then turn up the heat in the second, scoring 2 goals, with one of them being that Richarlison goal. Next up came Cameroon, and one hell of a game it was. I don't think naturally many people would have thought that fucking Serbia versus Cameroon would be as much of a thriller as it was, let alone having 6 goals in it. Cameroon would open the scoring and take the lead to go 1-0 up, and even if it did look like they could carry it into the second, in the 46th minute on the edge of the first half, Strahina Pavlovic would score, and only a bit later, Serbia got another one through SMS. Get it? Because through SMS, because SMS the message, but it's also Sergei Milinkovic-Savic, that's the abbreviation for, fuck me. Anyways, the Serbs would add another to their lead early in the second half through Aleksandar Mitrovic, and then make the scoreline 3-1 for them, and disaster followed. Vincent Aboubakar in the 63rd minute would score a bizarre goal, and it did stand for good reason so. And only 3 minutes later, Bayern Munich forward Choupo-Moting would equalize in the 66th, tying it up at 3-3. Serbia did show some resilience, they really did try to get a fourth, however, it was always going to be difficult, and the match finished in a 3-3 draw. Again, an absolute thriller, and one that I had the pleasure of watching. Last up, and definitely not least, Switzerland. And if they have any hopes of escaping this group, they need a win here. Once again, this match was heated before it even actually fucking began, and for reasons that should be obvious. Now, this is another of the fucking 35 matches that I will not be able to do justice in this video. However, with this one, I will at least attempt to, although I'm certain I'll fail miserably. Switzerland would then take a lead first through Albanian board Sherdan Shaqiri, which is, like I said, fucking incredible how the world works. This wasn't the desired start for Serbia, but just like against Cameroon, they would turn around fairly quickly, with Aleksandar Mitrovic equalizing in the 26th, and in the 35th, Dusan Vlahovic would give them the lead. The match was looking like it could close out, the first half advantage Serbia, however, Breel and Bolo would level it in the 44th minute of the match. Going into the break, it was 2-2, and there were no real fights or even really too many cards yet. Everything was fairly civil, besides, Vlahovic grabbing his nuts, but honestly, that is child's play for what is about to come and what was realistically expected. Now, very, very early in the second half, in the 48th minute to be exact, Remo Freuler, who was assisted by Augsburg's Vargas, would score to make it 3-2 to the Swiss. And things started to cook, boil, if you will, actually. Things would get a bit more aggressive, Serbia would get themselves a bit heated, Switzerland would get heated in response, and now I could lie here and say that I wasn't entertained. Of course, it's all sad and honestly good, I would love to see some sportsmanship and love here. However, I mean, you don't get too many of these kind of heated fights in the World Cup, do you? That's a total lie, you definitely fucking do, what the fuck. The Swiss kept it tight and narrow at the back, securing the 3-2 victory at the end of it. In the other game, Cameroon actually won against Brazil 1-0 through Vincent Aboubakar, so again, proper shame. This meant another failure at the final hurdle for the Serbs. And this one was really disappointing, as hell, even I had them go to the round of 16s in my predictions. The fans were quite disappointed, as at this point this has just become, a fucking yearly struggle for them. Every 4 years they qualify just to not do anything in there, and it's, it's a little bit sad. Especially because of the amount of confidence that was exuded, and realistically, the confidence was real. They had beaten some big teams in the qualifiers, so it was rather disappointing how quickly they went out in the group stage here. This was not the end for them, however. Serbia did not just switch coaches immediately, reactionary. They would keep Pixie, and in my humble and not at all professional opinion, they did the right thing there, and their comeback has already started. Since the World Cup, they have played 3 matches and won all 3, the 2 of them being in the Euro 2024 qualifiers, which, set them up for a very good start there. Now, I really actually would love to see this team at the Euros, because, if nothing else, if you've seen all the matches that they played at the World Cup, they are some of the most entertaining ones there, undoubtedly, like, genuinely some of the most entertaining ones by far. That sort of stuff is just amazing, really, and I'm looking forward to it. Once more, if you've made it to the end of this, you should probably complete the Holy Trinity. I don't know if you've seen the Croatia or Bosnian one, but if you haven't, you should check those out to complete the Holy Trinity of racism and nationalism. Just, the unholy Trinity, if you will. And that's really about it. Go check my Instagram, or don't. I don't do anything on there. Same goes for the Twitter. Do as you wish. Thank you all for watching. And that's about it. See ya.